Well, I'm hoping we can, really hoping, because we put a lot of prep into this particular recipe today. Delicious food, yes, can be found everywhere, including and very often on our social media feeds, on TV, and even in the news. And for the ultimate foodie, this is the perfect combo of inspiration to be found wherever they look. But what about taking a step in a new direction and diving into some foodie podcasts? Well, Angie is in the house today to discuss two of her favorite podcast channels, which is really cool. You're a podcastee. Does that make podcastee? But it is. It's a great way to, as John Savage pointed out, to do a deep dive into a subject. Yeah. Not just get an Instagrammable snapshot, but actually get into the story behind it, the person behind it, the nuance of particular things, and looking at the 3,500 ingredients that we have on this table. I'm guessing there's a lot of nuance to creating this. But where did you find the inspiration for this particular recipe?
Okay, so this is from the Bon Appetit foodcast. So they did a whole experiment on the best chicken parm. They call it chicken parm because it's an American podcast.
So it's like an American-Italian dish.
Yeah, so it's chicken parmigiana, actually, is the full name. And it is an American-Italian dish. So it's definitely not Italian-Italian. It's more immigrant American-Italian.
Cool. I dig it.
So it's a version of... So what they did is they did a whole experiment of different ways of doing the sauce and the cheese and the chicken and the this and the that. And then they kind of coalesced it into this particular recipe that they decided was the best. So we are trying it out.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm glad that they've spent the hours of work to get us to the point that we get to now benefit from all of that inspection.
Right.
There is a lot going on.
There's a lot going on.
Okay, so I'll help out
wherever I can.
We're
going to divide it up in, basically, it's 3 different elements. So we've got our sauce, tomato sauce, we've got our chicken, crumb chicken, and then the cheese that goes on top. So it's not that bad. It's just, it looks a little bit
and it's process driven. So you've got to kind of do things
You've got to do it in step by step. So we'll start with the sauce. We've got some olive oil in here.
Oh, and that finished sauce looks amazing. That deep color looks beautiful.
It is. Look, in making it and in prepping it, we have realized that we would make a few changes ourselves.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
South Africanize it.
We would South Africanize it. I think, I think Americans do have a different flavor profile to us. They like different things.
Oh, completely.
So what we're doing is we're just sauteing off the onions, and they would have put in the garlic now. I always put the garlic in last because it's going to burn, and then you get that bittering.
For sure.
So we're going to add some. This is a super tomatoey tomato sauce.
Which is kind of what you want, maybe?
Ish. It's a little bit too tomatoey. I would have added a bit of water to this just to thin it down a bit.
Okay.
And I'd add a splash of vinegar, and I find that adding, and it sounds counterintuitive, but a splash of vinegar into this very acidic tomato actually somehow releases it.
Okay.
So I always add a splash of vinegar.
Is that why we add sugar to tomatoes to balance out the acidity of it?
Too acidic. So we've got some chili flakes. They would have used red pepper flakes, but I've never seen that. So some chili flakes.
I'm all for the chili, cool.
And then they've got the sugar in here. Sugar, and the amount of sugar in here is like negligible.
Minuscule.
You might as well not bother. So
the tomato itself probably has a similar amount of sugar in it just naturally as a fruit.
And what we'd also do is definitely not put all of this tomato puree in. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And it's only 4, it's to serve 4, so it's far too much. So that's the other change we would, so we're doing our own experiment as we go,
for sure.
which
but I
is
think
quite
that's
fun.
Maybe what the purpose of Bon Appetit's discussion was, to inspire people to go out there and actually do this and go through the process.
And that is what's quite nice about listening to a podcast. You really do get deep into and they explain everything so nicely, so you're kind of understanding why and where they got to that point.
And I suppose for somebody who's trained in the culinary arts, to get that perspective, the value of other people's inputs, exciting.
It is exciting. And it's the funny thing is, if you do like food or know food, you can listen to it and not actually, you understand exactly what's
so we've turned, our podcast should have been 2 minutes and we've turned it into a 3 hours. So we've got a lot to get through in a very limited time, so maybe that's my fault.
Right,
so we've got our tomato.
Tomato, right. Then the chicken, crumbed chicken, so it's basically crumbed chicken. So they've marinated this in olive oil, garlic, and salt and lemon.
Okay, and the lemon obviously helps to break down the
just
fibers.
tenderizes it a bit, so that was their take on it. Then you're going to dredge it in your flour, which I've forgotten to add garlic powder and onion powder to. So you dredge this. It's such a messy process. And then it goes into the egg. We'll just do it as quickly as I can. Into the egg. I'm not using my fingers now because it's very messy.
100%. I'm like that. I'm terrible. Like when my baby girl, I wipe her face after every mouthful.
Exactly.
She just looks at me like I'm a crazy person. But
no, it's normal. That's what dads do.
Okay,
right, so this is now panko crumbs, and the panko crumbs are nice and light. They're much more flaky than normal breadcrumbs, which is really nice.
You want that lovely extended crisp, not just a layer, but it's like lots of...
Exactly. And then this is now going to go into the pan, which we're going to fry off. And then while it's cooking, it's a nice hot pan. You're going to fry it on both sides until it's crispy and golden. And then we have
you fry the chicken off first, and then it goes into the pot.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
into your
so fried chicken. Now what I would do, to be lazy, if I didn't have time, I'd go and buy the ready crumb chicken.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Put your tomato, and this makes a lot of sauce. So you could actually take half of this and freeze it.
For the next round,
Either the next round or to use as a nice pizza topping.
Oh, I love it.
It's a great way to do pizza topping. And then we're going to put the chicken down. So it's a butterfly chicken. It's been bashed a little bit so it's not too thin, too thick.
Too thick, cool.
And then we've got Parmesan and mozzarella. Now the mozzarella gets that nice stringy effect, which is what we want, and the Parmesan's for flavor. And then you just...
Some ahoy.
Put that on
Okay, so
top.
the tomatoes underneath the chicken, not the cheese. Okay.
And then this goes under the grill. And then you end up with a very delicious, very decadent,
absolutely
calorie-full,
beautiful. But that's why we're making it. I can understand why this has inspired you. Hopefully this has inspired you as well. Thank you, Bon Appétit, as a podcast for going through this journey to arrive at what we are going to call, now with our little South African touches, the best chicken parm in the world. Beautiful.